Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I will take you to the world of the empty boxes. And I can promise you this is a video where we are gonna laugh a little bit, have fun with some things, but also talk about serious stuff. Empty boxes, I'm using that obviously as a metaphor. It's always interesting when a box is closed and it has a label. Does it really contain what the label predicts the box contains? And in our case, the box that we're going to talk about is labeled with historical tempo reconstruction. And for those of you here a little bit longer, this channel is focused lately, like the last years, primarily around historical tempo reconstruction, metronome marks, and so on. We tried to solve, I think we solved the issue of like the mysterious metronome marks from Beethoven, Chopin, Schumann, and all the other composers. For those of you who are new here, we think that the modern reading of the metronome, which we call single beat, so every tick represents the note value in the metronome mark, is untenable because it leads to massive problems, not just with a handful of metronome marks, but with a lot of metronome marks, maybe even the majority of them. And so the solution, I would say, obviously, is in the pendulum way of using the pendulum, like physicists still use the pendulum today. There is a lot more to say about that, but like that's the foundation of it. The up and down of the hand, the tactus, the arsistasis, the twofold movements. You need 2 points in order to make it a tempo, and so on and so on and so on. We call it whole beat metronome practice. Anyways, so tempo reconstruction, what's inside the box? We're going to have a look at 3 sorts of views on metronome marks, not necessarily all opposed against what I'm doing. But the question is each and every time, what is inside the box? And you will notice that the first videos I will share you is just hilarious. I'm saying that with all respect, but it is true. I mean, they published their videos online and we're going to watch one of them. It's just a few minutes, but I can promise you, you will have a good time. These people seem not to have like a kind of introspection element, like how to evaluate what I'm doing. But it's interesting because when we go back to that box, then we see that these people, and they're the only ones, they open the box. They allow us to look what's inside the box. And the box is empty. What they're doing, in fact, is what we would like to expect with the other sources and videos that I'm going to show to you. There is another category. There are the categories of people that make videos and made videos about my work, especially, but they have like this patina. I don't know if I can pronounce that word correctly in English, like of seriousness, of professionality. And you will see the more they do that, the more the box is closed, the more fancy terms they use. And you might have the impression these guys knows what they're talking about, but what's inside the box? We would like to see that. And then the third category, as of course, are the academics, the scholars. Once we had these steps from very low bar to like pseudo-scientific to really scientific, like academic, you will understand that the box in the highest tier level, so to say, is really closed. You don't even get a glimpse of what's inside the box. Anyways, I'm going to share my screen, but before I do that, do me a favor, subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. That helps big time in growing this channel. And also, much love to my Patreons. There is a link in the description box that leads you to my Patreon page. There's also a link in the description box that leads you to my email list, newsletter, so to say. Every time we have new releases or new things that we want to share, you get an information mail then. And as a welcome gift, there is one podcast for free. Now, without further ado, let's have a look at this channel. Zot van België is like crazy about Belgium. That's the country I live in, and I don't know the guy, but he felt the need to make 3 videos, well, debunking my work, and you will immediately get a taste. This is not, it's meant very seriously, but it's not very serious actually, the way he's doing that, in the sense that like, totally missing the point. When I watched this for the first time, it was one of my patrons who sent that to me. I thought like, holy whatever, this guy really found something that I missed. Of course, I'm the prime subject here. And so you can imagine that I was a little bit intrigued, like, what am I missing? And then came the climax where the revealing came like, okay, but this is what he missed. And you have to experience that yourself. So let's watch this. And then I'm not even going to break that down, but this is the open box.
Welcome people to this video. I apologize for my bad English. I want to make something very clear from the very beginning, right? I'm not here to bash Wim. We all make mistakes, right? It happened to me as well in the past that I shared a picture and the picture was wrong, or I shared a link or information and then it was wrong. So we all make mistakes, right? So that's how we learn, okay? But I discovered something and I need to share this with you. So here is the video from Authentic Sound from Wim Winters with the title I Found Beethoven's Metronome. And so wow, and it feels unreal. Well, because it is unreal. So it is not only, that's why it feels unreal, because it is unreal. So that's his video. At some point, 0.22 seconds, you will see this picture, right? So the metronome here at the box, and with a yellow label, here with the yellow label, which says Bayard. And by the way, Bayard was a factory in Switzerland. So now, very important, remember this picture. So now, metronome Bayard, metronome Bayard. Okay, go to pictures or images, right? And bang. Oh, what do we see here? What do we see here? Oh, the exact same picture. See, the exact same picture. So I'm a very curious person, right? So I click on it. Here from Etsy. So I click on it. So here, I click again to open. And so, oh, sad face. Here from Kees with 5 stars, Bayard Antique Metronome. So again, I need to click. I really need to click, guys. Here you see the Dutch text, bekijk item details. So I click on it, and bang. And here at €244. And you see, again, exact same picture with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pictures. Here, that's the picture that Wim, remember here, that's what Wim also shared. So it's this metronome, right? Here with the Eines tic-tac. So it's this metronome. Now we scroll a little. So I scroll. Oh, that's why probably Kees Prim got 5 stars, because he's a very honest person. And he says that this metronome is vintage, the Dutch text translated to English, vintage from the 1930s. Okay, here, vintage from the 1930s. The metronome from the 1930s. And so clearly, Beethoven can travel in time, can travel in the future, to get himself a metronome from the 1930s. I mean, I knew that Beethoven was amazing in writing music. I did not know that Beethoven was an amazing time traveler.
I mean, you always say now, like, yeah, but Wim, honestly, like, this was hyperbolic, right? I found Beethoven's metronome, of course. You all know that. You would be surprised though how many people answered that, or like in the comment boxes, like, what the fraud, you know, and I don't care. I don't take it seriously, whatever. But it are the people that make videos on this level who open their boxes completely. And you will understand later. So another video he made was on my video on the Dutch lexicon. That's actually one of the most beautiful whole beat definitions, 1932. And when I scroll to the comments, it's unbelievable. You see always the same people. Gerard van Renen, who says like, oh, it's like Dutch, translate to English. It's a pity that Keller and Kruseman, the ones of the encyclopedia, did not look into the future to see that Wim Winters would make off with this text. Like, he's actually asking for, we should time travel back and say to these people, hey, do not write what you have to say, because Wim Winters will be using it to actually reconstruct the history. You know, it's very funny. I'm not using this to say like, this is the level of people that oppose my work, but they are honest in a way, childishly honest in a way. I just Gerard van Renen, just share. I was looking him up years ago. He he was a strong advocate for whole beat. I don't know what happened, but then he was just screaming for attention. Maybe WBMP means Wim Bubble makes Buffy at last when Winters has frankly admitted he's wrong. Wim Winters and his followers, and so on and so on. Gerard, we miss you on the internet. So this is the open box, and I really am serious about that, because that's the best you can get. Now we are entering the best you can get in the sense of like people who open everything they have, which is in this case nothing, really nothing. And again, my point is not to prove that people who oppose my work have nothing to show. That's not my point. My point is the empty box is open now. We're going to see, and we're not going to listen. We're just going to show you a few other channels that you probably will all know and familiar with. Or if you're longer here, at least familiar with. When you're new here, you won't remember that. So we had quite some videos that were made against my work. PianoPad was one of those. I mean, the channel is called PianoPad. It's Patrick. I don't remember his second name. We talked even, I should have recorded that conversation. But anyways, regardless. So just by seeing the titles is of course clear what these people want. They want to debunk the theory. And they present themselves, as you see also in the picture, as okay, but we are serious. Like wearing a suit on the thumbnail, at least here, whatever, using like another language. It's on another level as the channels that I just showed you. You had other people, like this was also a video that a few years was like not blowing up, but this is kind of, I don't know, kind of philosopher, or I honestly don't know what his channel is about, but these people feel the need, like, okay, let's weigh in on the topic as well. And then it's about the Hammerklavier Sonata, and they see the recording of Alberto on my channel, which is 84 minutes long. And that's too long. Yeah, that's true. And I don't think it's 84 minutes. It's maybe, we had like also an appendix to that video. But anyways, the slow movements is indeed too slow, but they don't check. They just weigh in on that. And he is not a musicologist. PianoPad isn't either. You have here Bernard Ruchti, also a person that I talked with. So certainly also the discussion goes on about whatever. I would say rather hostile towards our work, which is unfortunate because, yeah, he is a little bit, it's not the same approach as we have. It's a little bit I do whatever I want with Metronome Marx approach. And then when you listen to these people and these videos, then you will get the impression that, okay, but there is something that they know what they're talking about. But when you listen to them, you have to think about the empty box, and you can do that by visualizing these people. And you have a lot of these on a stage in an academic environment where actual musicologists are going to ask the question, or with me. I take my box and they take their box, and I will say, here's my box and with the facts. There's, for instance, a piano with 200 scores. Can you play them? That's opening the box, and then they have to see, okay, what's inside of your box? Is there a solution to these Metronome Marx, or are you just like spitting out words that sound fancy and that work on one condition in this time and environment only? And that condition is that the entire world is biased in favor of the fast metronome interpretation, not knowing that it doesn't make sense, in fact. And so this because everybody is biased, your videos work because that's what people want to hear. People are attached to their music, to the way that the music sounds. That's an emotional connection, which I get. It's not easy to change that. And that's, of course, why these videos, they, for all of their own reasons, and I could have listed here 6 or 7 or 8 different types of channels, that they work, but the box is closed. The labels are more fancy. Why? It doesn't provide with the solution really to fix once and for all of these metronome marks. So we have the empty box that was opened here in this channel and with Van Rijn, and I have a few others. Then we came over the more fancy videos like, okay, I'm a professional pianist, which this guy is. I know what I'm talking about, and then using my name to get some views, which I don't mind. And then we come to a completely other category, which are the real academic people. So there you could expect, or you would expect, that the box with label tempo reconstruction is actually open, because what would you have to hide? Here we have Dr. Noortuin's thesis, actually his thesis on which he got his doctoral title. Many people refer to this work as a standard work for, and especially people who care about metronome marks. Well, I wrote an extensive 20-page long review of this, which we're not going to publish in the book. That was originally the plan, but it's too much focused on the work of this person to be of use. It would be very useful, but to be like fitting in the context of a book that generally explains and displays our view. But we might publish it as a standalone article or in a journal even. I mean, working on those things with a few people right now. It's a slow process here. We have a few people that work and on this, and that we make steps forward. But anyways, regardless, there's one passage here. There's one line even here. Again, when you think about the empty box, you will start seeing this more and more and more. And the translation of that is like, okay, but actually, you're not talking about a solution. You're not really going to show us what you really think about this. You are going to serve us with a lot of words, facts, non-facts, interpretations, speculations, and it's necessary. Why? Because there is nothing. The box is empty when you want single beat to be your solution. There is nothing in the box. It doesn't work. And what ends up happening then is a sentence like this still in like page 14, so at the beginning of his thesis on Beethoven's tempo indications. So the mysterious Beethoven's metronome that actually stands for all the metronome marks that we have from the 19th century. People don't realize that all the time, but it is true. Beethoven is just a moderate problem. But there you have someone who is about to become doctor in musicology with a jury among which are the biggest names of Beethoven research. Barry Cooper and Clive Brown were in this board that granted him this title. The doctoral thesis here is subject to a lot of questions. If I would be in that board, we would have needed like at least 3 days to get through everything that I wanted to know. Anomalies of this study are huge. And that's not surprisingly, because this poor guy had to make something out of nothing, because that box is empty. And then the question is like, okay, but your Beethoven indications, what can we do as musicians? Read what he has to say. What these intended tempos are, however, has been the subject of fierce debates amongst both scholars and performers, but a clear understanding of the intended meanings of these indications had yet to emerge. Of course, that's why he writes this thesis. But then, this study, which explicitly only aims to define Beethoven's intended tempos, but which is neutral about their applicability, will shed new light on the subject by systematically discussing and so on and so on. Why is nobody, like, talking about closed boxes? Nobody cares about your system, about your facts, about your view, about your perspective. If at the end we end up at this with the same problems as which we started with. Can I go to my piano, finally, open that Beethoven Hammerklavier Sonata, take my metronome and play the piece? No, you can't. It's written already here. So this sentence alone sets you off to think like, okay, but the person who wrote this, Martin Nortijn, he knew that what he was going to present made no sense. Why would you, if you research this after a century of mysteriousness and you have the solution to something of which you yourself claim that there is no broken metronome, there is no something like targets, metronome marks are accurate tempos. Nortijn makes the same point as I'm doing, and that's a great gesture. I mean, not many scholars and academic scholars that talk about metronome marks make that point. They want to hide a little bit behind that, like he made that point, and then you're publishing your doctoral thesis on Beethoven's tempo indications, and you say, I'm not going to test it. It's not my responsibility. Then you know that's what's inside your box doesn't work, and that makes your box to an empty box because your box is labeled historical tempo reconstruction. Just as a final example, here we made a video on this guy, on Alexander Bonus. I mean, I should remake that video and make it shorter and see what actually happens to the guy, because he was invited by Oxford University for the New Grove Dictionary to write an entry on the metronome, a new entry on the metronome. But his point is, like, the metronome was technically so advanced, if I remember well, it's a few years back, that nobody could use it. It was only like around the 20th century that people started to be able to use that. I mean, talking about an empty box, this is like even worse than in the case of Nortijn. I mean, there is nothing in that box. And as I said here in the description, this leaves you speechless if you hear and listen what this guy has to say in his interview. So I didn't follow up on that. Probably that entry has been written in the New Grove Dictionary, and that will be there for the coming decades. They won't listen to me. So I thought I had to make this video for you, because going from like videos that we can have fun with to videos that with like a kind of pseudo like scientificness, you know, I know what I'm talking about, but not realizing that their success or their like following, because that happened, is not because their work, not because their content, not because of the content of what's inside the box, but it's because people want someone to tell that, want to say someone like, hey, Wim Winters is just a fraud. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's all about making up facts and whatever. People want to hear that because they're attached to the performances that they like and the music that they like and the way that's performed today. And so it's a kind of pseudo following as well. But then you come to the highest like format of our academic system, which I support. I keep repeating that, but in these times it's important to say I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I support scientific research. Some people were like a little bit offended when I say, like, when there is a vaccine, I take it when my doctor says to take it. I don't have a medical degree. I'm not even going to take part in discussions about it. It's hilarious that people do that. Hey, I found this guy on the internet and he has a different opinion compared to the classical science and scientific medicine. Like, I don't understand. I support this scientific research, and it is slow. It has to be slow. But in musicology, in this part only, there's great musicological research. It's super interesting. Great guys, great researchers. But when it comes to metronome marks, the boxes are empty. And the higher you go in the hierarchy, the closer to the box are. And you will notice that, and this is my final point, the less people are willing to talk about that. When is the last time I got an invitation for a discussion with one of these people? Where is the answer of Ben Laude, which I invited him to come over to talk, to have at least a Zoom call about the things that we commonly share, supposedly, like finding, like, how did Chopin play his nocturnes? How do we listen to early recordings? What is actually going on? And even when he has people on his show pointing indirectly, by surprise, I made videos about that, pointing to the whole beat metronome practice, there is no response of these people, because when people are smart, Ben Lode is a smart guy, Martin Norden is a super smart guy, it takes courage, I think, to talk to me, because they know their box is empty. And once you see that image, guys, you will see it immediately. But my box, at least on tempo reconstruction, the other boxes I don't open on the internet, as you can imagine, they're open. That's open. So, and the book will open it even more. We will even eliminate the walls of the box. There will be no box anymore. That makes us vulnerable. But I'm not scared. The facts are so easy to see, are so self-explanatory. And even though the book will make mistakes, probably it will. I don't see it right now. It will not be complete. It will not be the Bible of tempo reconstruction, maybe the start for new studies, more than that perhaps. But even if we messed up everything, then what's your solution? So my box can always be open, because the solution is obvious. There is no other solution. There is no way in which you can use that metronome in a different way. It doesn't exist. It's either single beat or whole beat. Single beat doesn't work, well, then the other option remains. Okay, hope you enjoyed this little bit of a weird video maybe, but I thought it's an important point to make, and I just wanted to share, honestly, that one video with you. As always, when you make it so far in the video, leave it in the comments. I give you a little heart, because I really appreciate you, if you're still here. You are the best of my audiences. And check out a link to my newsletter, because that podcast, if you haven't heard that, any of those podcasts, you will hopefully, and I think will be surprised. So, and check out Patreons. They help me doing what I'm doing, recording this video on a Friday afternoon for you. So that's all I've got for you today. Thank you for watching. We see each other very soon again. Bye.